There comes a silent moment in every life where the noise of the world begins to lose its grip. It does not happen all at once. It is not an announcement or a sudden burst of clarity. It is a soft undoing, a slow erosion of illusions we once mistook for truth. You walk through crowded streets, surrounded by the buzz of opinions, demands, glances heavy with expectation. Once, these currents would have carried you without resistance. One word of criticism, and your spirit would collapse into apology. One missed opportunity, and your nights would fill with regret. Your very breath, it seemed, belonged to the unpredictable theater around you. You were taught to believe that happiness could be granted or revoked by circumstance, that fulfillment could be won through performance, that love must be earned through compliance. But as the seasons turned and the disappointments accumulated, an invisible fracture appeared beneath the surface of things. A question, persistent and disquieting, began whispering through the cracks. Is this truly all there is to living? Beneath the tides of reaction, a deeper yearning stirred. Not for victory in the endless external battles, but for an escape from the battleground altogether. Most people, conditioned to seek validation outside themselves, will never hear that call. They will build thicker armor, sharpen their tongues, master the game of appearances. Yet they will remain trapped, forever dancing to a music they did not choose, mistaking endurance for freedom. You, however, reading these words, standing on the trembling edge between old survival and new awakening, have glimpsed something different. You have begun to realize that life is not a series of obstacles to conquer, but a mirror held steadily before you, inviting you to recognize what was hidden all along. There comes a silent moment in every life where the noise of the world begins to lose its grip. It does not happen all at once. It is not an announcement or a sudden burst of clarity. It is a soft undoing, a slow erosion of illusions we once mistook for truth. You walk through crowded streets, surrounded by the buzz of opinions, demands, glances heavy with expectation. Once, these currents would have carried you without resistance. One word of criticism, and your spirit would collapse into apology. One missed opportunity, and your nights would fill with regret. Your very breath, it seemed, belonged to the unpredictable theater around you. You were taught to believe that happiness could be granted or revoked by circumstance, that fulfillment could be won through performance, that love must be earned through compliance. But as the seasons turned and the disappointments accumulated, an invisible fracture appeared beneath the surface of things. A question, persistent and disquieting, began whispering through the cracks. Is this truly all there is to living? Beneath the tides of reaction, a deeper yearning stirred, not for victory in the endless external battles, but for an escape from the battleground altogether. Most people, conditioned to seek validation outside themselves, will never hear that call. They will build thicker armor, sharpen their tongues, master the game of appearances, yet they will remain trapped, forever dancing to a music they did not choose, mistaking endurance for freedom. You, however, reading these words, standing on the trembling edge between old survival and new awakening, have glimpsed something different. You have begun to realize that life is not a series of obstacles to conquer, but a mirror held steadily before you, inviting you to recognize what was hidden all along. In the early stages of this recognition, the world still appears as the adversary, a cruel, unpredictable force throwing hardship after hardship across your path. Each rejection, each slight, each failure feels like a personal assault. Yet slowly, almost imperceptibly, a deeper truth reveals itself. Life is not attacking you. Life is reflecting you. The anger that flares when you are disrespected, the despair that rises when you are overlooked, the rage that boils when outcomes betray your expectations. None are sourced from the outside. They are born from within, from forgotten fears, buried wounds, abandoned hopes. The world is merely the canvas upon which your own unhealed parts are projected. And in this revelation, the battlefield shifts. The enemy is no longer the unpredictable stranger or the cruel circumstance. The real confrontation is inward. The real war has always been against your own unconsciousness. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. It strips away the comforting illusion of victimhood. No longer can you blame fate or chance or others for the turbulence within. You must meet yourself in places you had long since abandoned. You must step into the hidden chambers of your own mind, where resentment festers, where insecurities breed, where grief silently accumulates. It is here, in the dimly lit corridors of the unseen self, that true transformation begins. Not by slaying external dragons, but by facing the ancient ghosts that have shaped your reactions to life itself. Few dare to take this journey. It demands an honesty so raw that the ego recoils. It requires the humility to admit that perhaps you have been living under spells of your own making. Every harsh word that wounded you did so only because a part of you feared it was true. Every disappointment that shattered you did so only because you secretly tied your worth to an outcome. Every betrayal that devastated you did so because you outsourced your sense of security to another's choices. The outside world merely pressed against wounds that already existed. To heal, then, is not to change the world, but to change your relationship with yourself. Imagine walking into a hall of mirrors, each reflection distorted, exaggerated, grotesque. If you did not know they were reflections, you might attack the glass, attempting to fix the grotesquerie you see. You might grow exhausted, bloodying your hands against every new distortion. Yet the mirrors would not change, because the distortions were never in the glass. They were in your perception. This is the silent folly of humanity. Battling endlessly with reflections, hoping to find peace by rearranging what appears outside, never realizing that true mastery lies not in breaking the mirrors, but in healing the eyes through which you see. It is here that a new path diverges, a quieter, humbler path. One not paved with grand victories or public accolades, but with private reckonings, quiet courage, and unseen triumphs. It is the path of inner sovereignty, a life no longer dictated by external events, but shaped by the integrity of your inner state. Mastery does not mean controlling the world. It means reclaiming authorship over your own mind, over your own emotions, over your own energy. When insults no longer sting because you know your worth. When rejection no longer wounds because you no longer hinge your existence on another's acceptance. When failure no longer defines you because you see it as a necessary sculptor of growth. Then, and only then, do you taste freedom. Not the counterfeit freedom sold by external achievements, but the authentic liberation that arises from within. And yet, the old patterns will not surrender easily. Even after insight dawns, the reflex to react remains strong. The world will still hurl its challenges. People will still misunderstand, criticize, betray. Circumstances will still turn suddenly, leaving your plans in disarray. Life does not soften simply because you awaken, but you, the awakened one, move differently through it. You learn to notice the spark of reaction before it ignites into flame. You catch the rising tide of anger before it drowns your clarity. You feel the tremor of insecurity before it seizes your voice. In this space, the sacred pause between stimulus and response, you reclaim your power. The mind, once a prison, becomes a sanctuary. The emotions, once tyrants, become messengers. Fear becomes an invitation to deeper trust. Anger becomes a signpost toward unmet needs. Grief becomes a bridge back to lost parts of yourself. Every feeling, every trigger, every discomfort becomes part of the curriculum of mastery. Life ceases to be an adversary and becomes your greatest teacher. Yet there is an even deeper layer, waiting to be uncovered. Beyond the self-awareness of reaction, beyond the careful mastery of perception, there lies a dimension where even the identity you have painstakingly constructed, the identity of the awakened one, the master, the healer, begins to dissolve. Here you glimpse the final illusion, that you were ever a fixed self at all, that you were ever something that could be defined, wounded, defended, praised, or condemned. Beneath every role, every mask, every story, you find the silent presence that has watched it all unfold, the witnessing awareness untouched by praise or blame, by victory or defeat. The sky behind all weathers, the ocean beneath all waves. When you rest here, in this space of pure being, a profound peace envelops you. Not because life has become easier, not because suffering has been eradicated, but because you are no longer entangled in the theater of identities. You no longer mistake the play for the player. You move through the world lightly, tenderly, fiercely when needed, but never losing the thread of remembrance. I am not this passing weather. I am the vastness that holds it all. From this place, even the need for mastery dissolves. Even the striving to be unshakable falls away. You become like a tree rooted deeply in the earth, its branches swaying with every storm, yet never questioning its own existence. You do not resist the winds of life, nor do you cling to them. You allow them to pass through you, knowing they can neither define nor destroy you. And paradoxically, it is precisely in this surrender that the deepest form of power arises. Not the brittle power of dominance or control, but the supple, invincible power of presence. Those who encounter you may not understand why they feel steadier in your company. They may not grasp why their own chaos seems to soften in your presence. But something ancient within them will recognize the resonance. They will feel, even if only for a moment, what it means to stand in the presence of someone who no longer fears life, who no longer needs the world to behave a certain way in order to be at peace. You become a lighthouse in the storm, not because you banish the storm, but because you embody the light that no storm can extinguish. You no longer seek to control the tides. You ride them. You no longer cling to the shore. You trust the current. You no longer demand that life arrange itself according to your preferences. You love life as it is, wild, unpredictable, devastatingly beautiful. And in this love, you find the belonging that eluded you for so long. Not a belonging granted by others, not a belonging purchased through performance, but a belonging that arises from knowing, in your bones, that you are life itself. That the breath moving through you is the same breath that stirs the trees, shapes the mountains, carves the rivers. That you are not separate from the dance of existence. You are woven into its fabric, an inseparable thread in the great unfolding. Here, there is nothing left to prove, nothing left to defend, nothing left to chase. Every moment becomes enough. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every encounter becomes a sacred meeting of reflections. You bow to life and life bows back. This is not the end of the journey. It is only the beginning of living awake. Challenges will still come. Pain will still visit. Loss will still tear at the heart, but they will no longer define you. They will pass through you, leaving wisdom where once they left wounds. You will rise, not because you have conquered the world, but because you have remembered you were never its prisoner. You will walk, not to arrive somewhere, but to honor the miracle of movement itself. You will love, not to complete yourself, but because love is your very nature, flowing endlessly without condition. You will meet the storms, not with clenched fists, but with open arms, knowing that nothing true can ever be taken from you. You are no longer at the mercy of the reflections. You have become the light from which they are cast. You have stepped beyond the battleground, beyond the mirror maze, beyond the endless striving. You have come home to yourself, and now, at last, you are free.